Hi, my name is Senta. This is my personal channel. Senta Rose is my name. And my business channel is Blooming Life Guide. The link to that will be in the description below. I do a lot of spiritual content on the other channel. And in 2026, I'm going to be putting out a lot more content on that channel. I'm really excited about it. I have a backlog of things already drafted so that I'll be able to keep a momentum going and have that channel actually be more active. Today, I'm going to talk about how I am using the Just Scribbles planner as my financial and budgeting planner well as my goal planner. I have a different video that talks about how I use it for my goals. This video, I'm talking about how I'm using it to manage my finances. So if you're interested in knowing more about how somebody budgets their money and keeps track of things, stick around. I'll be right back. Okay, so to begin with, the weekly duo by Just Scribbles is what I'm using this year as my primary budget plan. I do have a horizontal, which is a horizontal weekly with daily pages, and I am using this as well because I have so many empty pages in this that I decided that I would put in some of my annual sinking fund information here. But primarily I'm using this. At the beginning of every month, I finalize my budget. And my budget is based on the income that I received the previous month. So I get paid from a contract agency that I work for on the 10th of every month. And I get a pension check on the 25th of every month. And what I do is I use the money that I get from those two checks to fund my next budget. So by the way, just introducing myself a little bit, I am somebody who's a writer who wants to publish some books in 2026, but I have a spiritual business and I have a mental health practice that I do as well. And I live on a very fixed and limited budget. So I'm covering up some of my budget information because I just am not open to sharing everything about what I spend in the month. And some of what I'm showing you is still giving you some details. So in this planner, there is a monthly calendar followed by 2 blank pages that this is where my budgeting is. And then it moves into the weeklies. And then you have all the weeklies, and then you have the next month and all those weeklies and so forth. The months and the weeks are together. And there are 2 weekly layouts for every week. There's the dashboard layout. This one's kind of a messy one. The dashboard layout. And then there is a vertical weekly here. But let me come back here to the monthly first. Every month, I record a list of financial tasks that need to be done, some bills that are coming out that are not routine. And then I write within the month when different bills are due. I have some housekeeping stuff that I keep down below for house cleaning. Then I turn the page and I write my budget. I have covered up some of the information, even though I still don't think you can see it because I think there's enough pixelation in the video. I am not trying to become a super professional, polished YouTuber. I am an authentic YouTuber, and you'll see I hardly wear any makeup, and that's because I don't wear makeup in real life. Why would I wear it on screen? And I don't edit my videos. I pause them when I need to, but otherwise you're getting the authentic me. You know that this is not AI. I also don't have the top-down camera set up because I film everything on my laptop and there's just no way to do that. So on this page, I have my budget, my business budget and my home budget is here. And then this is a spending category. At the end of every month, I go through all these categories, different categories that I determined. They're going to be different for every household. And I write out how much I spent in these different areas of spending. And that includes annuals. So all of the money that I pay annual subscriptions to, I set aside money every single month for those annual bills. And I figure out my category spending per month, how much I set aside that month in that category, as well as how much I spent that much, how much was on my budget that month. So when I come out with this, I end up with my spending amounts that I have available to spend in the different categories of my spending tracker. This is the vertical weekly that goes with the dashboard. So you would have the dashboard here for the week, and then the next week would be the same week, but a vertical. So throwing the book out to a future page, it would look like this, Monday through Sunday. And there's times on here. I just ignore the times. So I'm converting this into this, which is the different categories of spending that are not bills. So the first category is food, and that includes food delivered, food at the grocery store, food at a restaurant. Anywhere that food is purchased is all one category. But the details, I have plenty of room. This is a whole week, 1 2-page spread for the whole week. So I can write all the details in here. I can know how much was spent at a restaurant and how much was spent getting Jimmy John's delivered. Love Jimmy John's. Essentials for me are things like toilet paper, laundry soap, dish soap, basics to run your house is the essentials. Health is prescriptions, copays at the doctor or physical therapist, but also supplements are under health. I have an exercise program that I pay a monthly fee to participate in, and that goes under health. That's actually a bill, though. It's not spending. Transportation, how much I spent related to that. I made the decision as somebody who works only remote that I wasn't going to keep a car. And so I no longer have a car, and it has saved me so much money, but also has saved me so much stress because I would worry that my really old 1999 Honda Civic would not make it to an appointment. And that's exactly what happened last August. I went for lab work to be done, medical lab work to be done, and my car broke down on the way. And it needed a new transmission. And I said, that's it, we're done. I will Uber myself. I will call Uber and get myself, or use a bus or something, or a friend to take me, and stop spending all this money on my car. So I do need transportation as a category, because if I'm riding the bus or if I'm using Uber or something, I have expenses. Discretionary is what is not essential, and not food, and not health, and not transportation. Everything else is discretionary spending. And then I have something that in this category, I use the term bank for, but what that basically is it's the buffer. It's a dedicated amount of money should I go over budget in one of the other categories. I can only go over budget by that much. It's not the balance in my bank account. It's the amount of income that came in that month that I am saying could be used if I go over budget, without using the actual savings that I've been able to achieve in my bank account or in my savings accounts and so forth. And so it's typically between $100 and $200. That's typically what is in that category. And then I have a place to write notes. And every time I spend money, It's not a bill that's not already in the budget. It's recorded on here. Now, I am a bit of a boomer, in case you can't see all this lovely platinum gray. That's not me at the hairdresser. I don't wear a lot of makeup and I don't go to the hairdresser that often either. I really miss cash spending. I grew up where we spent everything in cash. I was in college when debit cards became the thing. There were credit cards that people had before I was in college, but I didn't have a credit card. I didn't use credit cards. And so for most of my adulthood, I just went to the bank after payday and I withdrew cash and I lived on cash. But now I have everything delivered to me. I use Instacart to get my groceries because, again, no car. Even with no car, I'm saving money with getting delivery. And I'm supporting people who need a job. So that's another part of it. I decided to use prop money so that when I'm spending money on something, it feels more real. It feels like, okay, this is real spending that you just did. So this is the money that I have spent on essentials in the month of December. It's actually quite a lot of money on essentials in December. It looks like real money. It's $145 that I spent in the month of December on essentials. And that's high. It's usually closer to 100. It's usually between 50 and 100. But I think because of Christmas, I think there were things I considered essential, or I might have stocked up on some things. When things go on sale, I often stock up. So $145 I spent on essentials. And again, this is prop money. It says for motion picture purposes on it. And some of them say teaching children money. Yeah, none of these say that. They all say motion pictures. But so I do have 2 sets that I bought. And one of the sets will say teaching children money. But it's prop money. It's not real. It actually is very clearly marked as not actual money you can actually spend, but it looks close to it. And so when I'm putting money in here, and what I do is I condense it all the time so that it's the fewest number of bills in here that adds up to the total amount spent to make it real. Yes, $145 is spent on essentials. That's a lot of money. I really spent a lot this month on health because I stocked up on some supplements and so forth. And so it's actually quite a bit of money that I spent on health. And I also had some health bills because I had a lot of lab work and so forth. And the doctor sent me to a specialist at one point. So I had a lot of extra bills too. But it's $191 that I spent on health, and seeing the money on the page here, the numbers matter, and that's all I really need. I only need to record it here. Taking the extra time to use the prop money really helps. And the other thing I do is that I put my budget in there. So I have the budget of what I have available, and it just so happens I have January's budget in here. So January's budget that I have available for health is $181 that I have available to spend on health things in January. And why is it such an odd number? Because my budget works that way. Sometimes it's odd numbers. You set your own budget for how much you spend on things like supplements and prescriptions and so forth. And frankly, I spend quite a bit on supplements. And I know it's a lot, but I also have to pay quite a bit for prescriptions. So adds up. So what I do when I spend money is I pull this out and I turn to the tracker in here and I write it down. I have what is available for each of the columns. And then I write down the date, how much it is, how much I had available will already be there. I subtract what I just spent from it. I get the next total. And then I write a note over here about what it was that I bought. But frankly, I can write across the whole page if I wanted to, more detail, because again, this is a workbook. It's not meant to be pretty. Yes, I have a few stickers here and there, but it's really designed to be a workbook that's sloppy and is supposed to get messy looking over the course of time. At the end of the year, these pages are shredded and then the paper is recycled. And if I need to, if I can't get the stickers off, then sometimes they're discarded because some of the stickers are not recyclable. I really like this system. It allows me to do a lot of tracking on my spending. It allows me to keep track of it and know where my money's going. But I finally have enough room with this weekly duo, the second week in here, to really write out in detail how I'm spending my money in these categories. So that is my budgeting process in the weekly duo. I am not sponsored by Just Scribbles. I purchased this with my own money. And I'm just going to briefly mention how I'm doing the annuals. Hold on just a second while I get some more of the materials I use for my annual. So there's a long list of things that I have annual subscriptions to. I have that in the front of my weekly duo. And it's quite a long list because I use a lot of things for my business that I pay. I get a discount, 20% discount if I pay for things annually. And I use a lot of different things for my business. I have kind of like 3 businesses in one. And then I have, of course, some personal stuff in here because Paramount Plus, YouTube Premium, these are essentials for me, but they're considered discretionary spending. I am using the back pages in the weekly horizontal, the one that has the daily pages in it. It's a 2-book process. Oh, I turned to a page that doesn't show you the setup. It has the horizontal weekly, and then it has daily pages for each day of the year in here. And I use those for like to break down projects that I'm working on and so forth. But in the back here, I created a table in which I wrote all of the different things that I need to save for each month. And then I'm writing down how much I've added to it across the board and what the balance available toward the annual bill is there. This is the first year doing that. Previous to that, I used the prop money and I tracked everything in the prop money envelopes. So I would have, here's my health deductible. And then I would have the money in the health deductible envelope, the prop money that I've added. So right now there's $42. And then I would have the tracker that tracked how much money I set aside for my health deductible. And then the next one is dentist. And then I have Secretary of State for my driver's license. And here's a better one. Amazon Prime. Not everybody supports the continued use of Amazon Prime. I am still using it because I like the videos. I really enjoy a lot of the TV shows and movies on Amazon Prime. And to me, it's worth the money to do that. And I still buy some things from Amazon because I don't have a car. I have to have everything delivered, and I'm not able to get the things that I want from the rural area that I live in. I pretty much need a place like Amazon. So I have a list here of how much I need to put in every month for the year for, when this renews, how much needs to be put in here. It's $12 a month that needs to be put in here to achieve the $140 that I need for the renewal every February. And that's all I was doing in the past. Now I'm using the double feature of writing it here and then also putting it in here with the cash in place. Here's Paramount Plus. I have the record. This is really sloppy. I'm a functional planner. I'm not here for Pinterest ready or pretty. I had to borrow from my annuals, and so I got behind on some of my bills. I had some financial stress this year, so I had to make a change to how much I was contributing because I had borrowed the money. And so it's not a lot of money, but it was still some that I had to borrow and put in. Also, Paramount raised its price from $120 to $140. And so I also had to increase how much I put in as soon as I discovered that each month. And so I check off when I have put the money in and I see exactly how much I have paid. So the envelope has already been filled for January and it should have $95 in it. And I opened the envelope up and it's in a little A6 binder with plastic envelopes, and I use index cards for the labels. And I open it up and there is a 50, 2 20s, and a 5. That's $95. And then this is my little tracker, and I have just slit where the holes are so that I could easily put the pages in and out, and I have to open and close the binder all the time. And when I'm not doing this, it lives actually in that top box right up there, but I still snap it closed so that nothing falls out. If I'm digging into it and it happens to slip out of my hand or something, it stays secure. These are really inexpensive binders that I got on Amazon. No surprise. And so that's how I'm doing my annual bills, but I'm actually tracking how much I set aside each month for each of the things in the binder as well. That's how I'm doing my budgeting. At the end of the month, I'm adding up how much I spent in every category. That way I can compare over the course of the year how much I'm spending in different categories. I decided that my discretionary spending, I wasn't doing a good enough job being detailed. I was recording how much I spent for discretionary spending, but I wasn't recording what types of different things count as discretionary spending and how much I was spending in each of those things. So I have decided this year to use the front pages of my weekly duo, the main planner that I'm using all the time. This planner over here is a secondary one. In many ways, it's an optional one. I could live without it. I might in the future choose not to purchase it. But the perpetual calendar I am using to track discretionary spending. So at the top of each month, I have a specific category, and I'm recording how much I spent in that specific category for each of the quarters. So the categories I have are buying fiction books, which I have a symbol for a book here. Buying nonfiction, I have a delta symbol. And then I have what looks like my television here for video. Video entertainment could be a video game. It could be a movie that I rented or a movie that I purchased the license to watch or to keep in my library. Household discretionary is just a picture of a house, pretty simple stuff. And then there's a picture of a coat hanger for wearables. And when I spend money in these categories during the month, I will write the symbol and how much I spent and the date in case I've overlapped in any way. I just make sure I I make sure I either write it right at the date and I circle the date, or I write the date on here just to keep it really clear which date it is. And that allows me to go back into the calendar and turn to that date in this page where I have the discretionary spending that I did and the details about it would be on there. So I have, in addition to the ones I just told you about, I also have discretionary spending that involves food getting delivered that's discretionary food. I have groceries. I want Jimmy John's. and so that's a discretionary food spending. So I have a picture of a car that represents that. I have a picture of a psi, a Greek symbol for psi, and that has to do with discretionary spending that involves my consulting with somebody. Like I'm paying for a few sessions with a coach, or I have an astrological reading, those kind of things. I do a lot of aura healing, chakra healing, that kind of stuff for others. And sometimes I actually pay somebody to take a look at me and help me get unstuck. I just recently met with a lovely woman who did some unsticking for my getting videos out next year. I've been kind of stuck with that, and I feel confident. Even if it's psychosomatic, I feel confident that we unstuck some stuff and it will be easier for me to do it. I have a picture of what looks like a piece of paper and a pen on it. Let's see if I can put my finger in the right place right here. And that means stationary. I have an L, which means learning. I'm not supposed to buy anything related to learning this year at all. I have all these classes I have paid for and have not taken. And I have decided I am definitely going to reduce the spending on that. But just in case I spend something that is learning related, I have a category. These next two are not discretionary. I just want to track these two last categories, even though they're not discretionary spending. I pay somebody to help me in the house because I have arthritis, and I have like a mitten up that just like it represents a helping hand, but I didn't want to have to draw a hand because similar to AI, I don't do hands well. So I drew a mitten. It represents helping hands. And how much I spent each quarter for that help. It's not discretionary. That's in my budget to spend. I'm just curious what I'm spending for that. And then the last one is savings. It's just a dollar sign. And it's tracking what my savings were, how much I was able to contribute to savings in each of the quarter. It's probably more likely to be what my total savings was each quarter, as opposed to how much I contributed. I'm just going to keep building on what's already there and write at the end of quarter one how much my savings was in quarter two and so forth across the board, so I can see the growth of it. So when you see these symbols down here below, these are all the things that I'm tracking each month. These are just the quarterly totals for the different categories, but I'm still recording in each month. And at the end of each month, I'm writing the totals for each of these categories. And that is discretionary spending, which is the biggest thing I spend money on. I spent more on discretionary spending than I spent on rent. And rent is actually pretty high. This place is not a very big place, but the rent is actually pretty high for it. I pay marketplace. It's not based on my income. It's the full rate, and it's gone up. And so when I'm spending more on discretionary than on rent, and I'm not developing a savings account, I had a dental procedure that I had to really postpone a lot longer than I should have postponed it because I didn't have the money. So I have to make some changes. And the goal down the road is that I will actually retire. I retired from a paycheck job to work remote in a contract job and then to build my business, which is nearly adds up to full time. But I would like to get to the point where I'm not actually working full time and that I have more leisure. And I can't do that if I don't get a handle on my spending. And discretionary is the first main step. Down the road, I may cut down on the things that I pay for to help me run my business, that maybe I'm overspending in those categories, and I'll take a look at that. But my first step is to get the discretionary spending under control. The weekly duo is helping me do that. And as a secondary little backup, I'm just doing a little bit of annual tracking in here. And I can also use these daily pages to write a little more detail about what was my thinking when I spent money. I certainly can add that to my daily pages. Hopefully, I will not want to spend discretionary. There is a whole new section of planners that I use for memory keeping that is a lot neater, although it's not perfectly neat because, again, I have dyslexia. I'm going to make mistakes and use whiteout. But I have a different notebook that I use for memory keeping, and it has a lot of really personal information in it. So I'm just going to briefly tell you in another video about my memory keeping. So stay tuned for that.